Welcome to Optimal Play. I'm Brandon.
And I'm Kyle.
If you're just joining us, we do, or at least I do, a thing with other friends where we do deep dives and first impressions into the cards in Arkham Horror, the card game, and we've branched out into Lord of the Rings: Journeys in Middle-earth, a game that you and I have enjoyed some of the times that we've played it.
Yes, that is an accurate statement.
So we recorded a ways back when we were several time zones apart. Kyle wasn't visiting, and my hair was not as awesome a color.
Yeah.
But we recorded this. It came out real long, so we've cut it into a few different videos, and this is us telling you that when we tell you we're going to talk about all the characters in the box, don't believe us. I think we're cutting this particular discussion in half.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so this first video will be, I think, some of like the new items and mechanics in the expansion and the first two heroes and their classes.
Great.
And then we'll get to the last three next video. Yeah, for us it'll be like no time has passed at all.
That sounds great.
Yeah,
awesome. I mean, we can just talk and talk.
If you're enjoying these videos or not, please subscribe to the channel, like it, leave comments, let us know all the ways in which we were right. We really appreciate it. And yeah, we'll see you on the other side of the video. Cheers.
Cheers.
Interrupted that wave beautifully.
I did.
That's good and awkward.
Keep it.
Good morning. Welcome to Optimal Play. I'm Brandon.
And I'm Kyle.
And Kyle has used his East Coast time hijinks to convince me to set an alarm this morning to talk about the Lord of the Rings Journeys in Middle-earth Shadowed Paths expansion. How are you today, Kyle?
I'm doing great. It is afternoon. It's a good time to be up and alive.
You're telling me you're not relying on coffee to keep you awake right now?
Just tea.
Okay. Well, cheers to that.
Cheers.
Yeah, so we recently talked through a lot of the contents of the Lord of the Rings Journeys in Middle-earth box. Took us a few minutes longer than we thought it might have, but felt like we covered some good ground. So you ready to do it again?
Yeah, we took a nice long break and now we're back to it.
Oh yeah, took a little nap and here we go. But you know what? It's like Christmas morning. We couldn't wait to unwrap the new box. So this one will be a little bit different than our review of the cards in the original box because these ones we haven't read yet. We've taken the shrink wrap off the box. Or at least I've peeked at the instructions. I don't even think Kyle has. And we're going to be giving our hot first reaction takes to these characters and these cards this time. By the way, if you're new to Optimal Play, welcome. We'd love if you would subscribe and like our video. And also we're on Twitch. Twitch.tv/optimalplay is where Kyle and I have been streaming some Lord of the Rings and other games. So follow us there. Join us when we're live. It's a lot of fun. All right. So I looked at the instructions. There's not a lot of new rules in the expansion, but there are a couple worth touching on, I think, if only because they might be referenced on cards.
Okay.
So have you ever played a game like a dungeon crawler or D&D?
Sure.
They all have this mechanic that Lord of the Rings now has, which is, I think it's often called difficult terrain. Lord of the Rings calls it difficult ground. So it's an icon that can be printed on the tiles that come in this expansion, or there are tokens that can get placed on tiles to make them difficult ground. So that works just like darkness.
Sure, that makes sense.
What difficult ground does is when you enter it, when you move into that space, you must either discard a prepared card or stop moving for the entire turn. You lose any remaining movement and cannot move anymore. So those are your two options: either be stuck there or discard a prepared card. So it seems to me off the top of my head like it adds a lot of value to like extra scouts and extra prepares, that kind of thing, right? Anything that just increases the quantity of cards you have available to trash.
Sure. And just like in general gaming, your turnout to be like, oh, if I finish here, that's okay.
That too, yeah. I would guess that they try to design those to be in places you'd rather not end.
Fair.
But yeah, for sure. And then there's this new thing, and it's a new token called Corruption. I found the rules on it to be almost like ominous. It's almost like a third vector. You've got health, you've got fear, and now you have corruption, and you can get these corruption tokens. One thing is, if you would gain a fourth one, you take a last stand test, so it can defeat you.
Oh, okay.
But then also it defines the rules are very clear that if you have 0 corruption tokens, you are considered uncorrupted. If you have 1 or more corruption tokens, you are considered corrupted. Neither of those words means anything. They must just exist for the app to screw you over if you're corrupted or if you're not corrupted.
Fair enough.
So there's not a lot known about how that's going to come up in the campaigns, I think, until we actually just dive in with the app. The one other thing about them, though, is it is tracked in the app. It's not just, even though you use tokens, they are kind of actually pointless because the app tracks your corruption and it carries over between quests.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So that you might actually get like 3 corruption in quest number 2, carry it over into quest number 3, get 1 more, and immediately have to die. Yeah, it could happen. So yeah, we'll see how that goes. And then I glanced at the new items and I picked out 3 so there's a good handful. I don't know, a dozen or so new items, and then some new upgrades for the ones we already have and things. You want to summarize our thoughts on Aragorn from last time?
He bad. Is that concise enough?
Yeah, we spent a solid 20 minutes trashing on Aragorn, I think. Yeah. One of the reasons he is bad is because his high stat is wisdom, and it's almost like it's the most sparingly used stat possibly out of the 5, and there was no weapon that uses wisdom. That has changed. We now have the walking stick, which is a wisdom-based weapon. It's one-handed. For 1 success, you can get 2 hits. For 2 successes, 2 hits and stun. And after you move into a space with difficult ground, gain 1 inspiration. That part seems like walking stick flavor right there.
Sure.
I don't know that this is great just because the quantity of hits that it deals is too low. Or is so low, but stunning on a basic weapon.
And it's only one-handed, so you could have a sword in your other hand for a little bit more damage dealing.
That's true. Although you can't test them at the same time.
True.
So I don't know if that's what I would do. He's got a banner. There's a couple other new like offhand items like the horn that I don't have in front of me to talk about. But yeah, I think that they're going to increase over time, kind of the offhand options too. Sure. Yeah. Do you have the sling in front of you?
I do.
Would you like to read it?
Would you like me to read that? So
Please do.
Sling is a weapon that uses wit or agility. For 1 success, you can do 2 hits. For 2 successes, 3 hits, and it is a ranged weapon.
Yeah. So this is the first. This is only the second ranged weapon we have after the bow, right? And this one uses Bilbo's stat, was what stood out to me.
Sure.
Either stat. What's that?
I said either agility or wit, which is great.
True. Bilbo's got higher wit than agility, though, right?
True. Yeah. I was just saying for more options, we don't even know what the characters we're going to talk about today are. Yeah,
true. And then you don't know what prepared cards you have that buff one or the other. Or,
sure.
Yeah, so these in general, I felt like in the core set, you would pretty much just always use the recommended items. Like there just weren't a lot of alternatives that, unless you were just trying to be weird, that you would take. Take for those characters. And there's nothing wrong with trying to be weird, except on here where we only make optimal plays. But
very curious.
Elsewhere, I'm supportive. But yeah, now I think you have actual good secondary options. Another one, if you maybe wanted to build melee Legolas, I don't know if you do that, but knife, which is an agility one-handed weapon that for 1 success is 2 hits and pierce, and for 2 successes is 2 hits and lethal. So these drop a lot of those strong keywords much earlier in the campaign.
Wow.
Yeah. 3 successes is 4 hits, pierce, and lethal. Like that'll kill almost anything.
Yeah. That's really good.
This one, walking stick and sling, I wanted to talk about because they're like Interesting new options. Make Aragorn better. This one just seems bonkers powerful.
Yeah. Yeah, the
Um,
sling, I mean, and you could use them together, right? You could use the sling and the knife together.
oh, wow. Yeah, if you're in melee range, nothing is stopping you from taking an agility test and then
Getting
distributing those
4.
successes
Yeah.
however you want. The thing is, I don't know why you would apply them to the sling over the knife. Like, you would have to
Well,
get
you
more
could
than...
you could do the 4 successes, do 6 hits, pierce, and lethal.
Yeah, I guess for all those tests where you get 4 successes and 4 hits in lethal and pierce
Yeah.
wouldn't have been enough to do the job.
No. When you got like the big boss warg that has, some nice armor to him.
Okay, sure. Yeah, I am enjoying the mental image of like knifing this warg with one hand while twirling a sling with the other hand.
I was thinking you kind of like put it in your teeth and load it that way.
There we go. Well, it's fitting then that you would need an extremely good agility test to pull it off.
Very dexterous.
All right, that leaves us just 5 characters to talk about. We're practically through this video.
Absolutely.
Want to introduce the first one?
I would love to. Her name is Arwen. She's an elf. Her highest stat is also wisdom. Sorry,
so it is.
She has a 5 inspiration pool, and once during your turn, you or a nearby hero may flip 1 damage or fear face down, or discard 1 face down damage or fear.
Okay, so she reminds me a little bit of Eleanor in that she seems like a very supporty character, but whereas Eleanor is a little more focused on inspiration, she seems even more focused on healing. This seems good.
Eleanor or
Elena?
Elena. I was like,
there is no
right.
Eleanor, is there? Elena meets Barivor in my mind, I think is probably what just happened.
Well, I think you're getting ahead of yourself. I think you may have seen a name.
Oh, there is an Eleanor in this box. How about that? Okay. No, so there's only like 10 characters, and they are Elena and Aragorn, and these Middle Earth names. They give me. Oh man, they are.
Barivor, Eleanor, Elena. Arwen.
There's an Elena and an Eleanor and a Barivor. Well, at least Arwen's name stands out as different.
Yes, he is no man.
All right. Anyway, she seems great. I think, right? Free, testless, actionless healing, or the flexibility to flip damage or fear face down, which can get rid of some really frustrating effects. Yeah. That seems great.
Yeah, I think again, we talked about abilities that will work every turn, and this is one of those that will likely work every turn as long as there's a valid target.
Yeah, and it works on you. So unless you have no damage or fear, there's almost a little bit of reason for her to be kind of tanky, to put herself in harm's way and try to take some enemy hits, just so that, because then she knows she can use her ability every turn if she has taken some damage and horror. Fear.
So Guardian Arwen is what you're saying.
Yes, I mean, maybe. Yeah, actually, this would pair pretty well with Guardian.
Fair enough.
All right. It seems to me like every character in this box still has 5 cards. Like maybe someday that will not be the case, but I think everyone here does.
I don't know.
Arwen has nobility. Before a nearby hero tests, you may discard this skill for that hero to gain 2 inspiration. If they are an elf or a human, you may gain 1 inspiration. She's got Elven Light. It has 2 fate icons. Before you test Wisdom or Spirit, you may look at the top card of your deck and place it on the top or bottom of your deck. 2 copies of Evenstar. It has a success and says, before you test, you may discard this skill to test Spirit instead and reveal 2 additional cards. And it has Sprint 1. And Willful. It has no success icons. During your turn, you may discard this skill to interact with a token in your space. Strike 2. Any thoughts here?
Well, I really like nobility because it gets a lot of inspiration in play, and elf or human is super nice.
Yeah, that is almost that is like the majority of characters that fall under those two traits.
Half-ish. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Um,
Yeah. What stands out to me is that none of this seems to go with her ability at all. Right? Like this.
Yeah. No healing.
This doesn't have any cards that is like whenever you would heal some more, or whenever you would heal, someone gains an inspiration, or like really plays into that at all. So that surprises me.
Yeah, that is a little interesting.
And then,
go ahead.
Oh, I was just gonna say, and then Even Star letting you convert skill tests to Spirit, which is not her highest stat.
Sure.
It does say and reveal 2 additional cards, but
it turns into a 5.
Yeah, that seems a little. I mean, I guess that's good. Like it turns a might test from a 2 into a 5, so it's not bad. But it's not that much better than just converting it to Wisdom. So it's I'm kind of a little baffled by these.
Yeah, I mean, I really love Elven Light for her. I think that's an amazing card because whenever you're testing those, Wisdom or Spirit, which seems like she wants to do that a lot, you can look at the top card and if it's good, keep it. If it's not, dump it. And that's a passive ability. It stays in play.
Yeah, this does stay in play, at least until you try to climb over some rocks. Yeah, that. So it's kind of it's worse than a Scout 1, but still pretty good because it just lets you manipulate the top of your deck.
Sure.
Yeah, I wouldn't say my mind is blown by it.
No,
but it's all right.
I just think it's nice to have that little extra look at top every single time you test those.
Yeah, it's only going to matter like from your second test on a turn onward, probably, because a lot of the time your original Scout, like what's on top of your deck.
Unless you draw garbage and then you put it on the bottom.
Just don't put garbage in your deck, Kyle. What are you even doing?
Mind blown.
I don't know how you haven't thought of that.
I guess I'll have to do that next time. I don't know why I didn't think of it.
So Arwen is, by the way, we mentioned there are 5 new characters. There are also 5 new roles, which is exciting because the core box didn't leave a lot of room to like mix and match characters and roles in all that many interesting ways, or to like multi-class where you switch mid-campaign. So there's a lot more wiggle room for that kind of thing now. Arwen is recommended to be an herbalist. Want to introduce us to the herbalism?
I would love
cards.
All right, so herbalism starts in play, curiosity starts in play, has no icons on it. After you prepare a skill with a fate icon, you may discard the skill to gain 2 inspiration or become determined. Gathered wisdom, there's probably 2 of those. Yep. And they are successes. It's a knowledge card, and it says, after lore increases, you or a nearby hero may scout 1. And it also has rest 2. Oh, that's really cool.
Wow. Okay, so these are both kind of new things the game hasn't really done before, right?
Yeah.
It's like care about preparing fate icons, and then care about gaining lore.
Yeah, something that the app does on its own, which is like, that's wild.
Right, yeah. And really, when you've played the game some, you start to kind of often recognize when like the description of the search tokens are kind of telegraphing that it's like,
something's interesting here.
Yeah, under this pile of rubble, you see a shield with a historical emblem on it.
Something shimmering beneath.
Yeah. It's not that hard to kind of see where the lore is hidden, and so that means, at least if she has gathered wisdom prepared, Arwen is the one who should go try to gather that lore.
Yeah. Well, it's not even she has to gather, it's just period when it increases.
Oh, that's true. Anytime it increases, you or a nearby hero may scout 1. Oh, that's true. So she can be deep in combat while Gimli, instead of fighting, is off reading
that dwarven shield.
Reading that scroll in the grass. And
yeah.
All of a sudden she scouts 1. Oh yeah, interesting. Okay. It seems great.
Do you prepare gathered wisdom though? I mean, that's the question. It sits in play forever.
Yeah, until you rest. So like you can get rid of it. But why would you? Because there's always probably more lore coming.
Yeah. And it's a success out of your deck. I don't know.
I don't know either. So I'm going to just read the next cards.
I like that.
So the herbalism role does have some cards you can purchase with herbalism experience. That seems to be also consistent.
I guess that makes sense.
The threes are study of nature. During your turn, you may discard this skill to choose another hero to scout one. If they prepare a card with a fate icon, you each gain 1 inspiration. Hands of a healer. This is the kind of thing I was looking for from her.
Sure.
After a hero in your space discards damage, you may discard the skill for a hero in your space to prepare a card with a fate icon from their discard pile, and it has rest 2. And once per round, a hero in your space may discard a prepared skill to scout 2 and hide. That was called Insight. I think I forgot to read the title. Interestingly, Insight, and maybe it's because the herbalism role is more about fate icons, but this is a 3 XP card with a fate icon.
Yeah, that's really cool. Maybe the first time we've seen that? I can't remember.
Yeah, it's not common anyway. So, fate icons upon fate icons. How do you feel about fate?
I mean, you gotta love your fate, right?
Well,
sorry.
well said, Kyle.
I think a lot of this is interesting. Again, just trying to wrap my head around all the new cards here.
This is trickier to do when it's first impressions, huh?
Yeah. So why don't you vamp for a bit while I reread them?
So Hands of a Healer is, what I was surprised wasn't in Arwen's own cards, because this now synergizes with her automatic ability. It is not like a passive ability that she can use every turn, because that you discard this for hero in your space to prepare a card with fate. I find this really interesting though, because it's very situational, where it's like, okay, hero has to be in your space, they have to heal, and then they have to prepare a card from their discard pile with a fate icon. But it also has a lot of options. If their discard pile has a lot of fate icons like this, they could really pull like the right card for the situation out with this. And so to have this on a level 3 card and have it be quite easy to trigger with Arwen specifically, like, this card seems really good to me.
Yeah, no, I would agree. And it doesn't say another hero, it just says after a hero in your space. So she could use it on herself if she, has something nice.
Yeah, and that is probably what she's likely to do a lot of the time. And it doesn't just have to be from her healing power too, also rests. Like, there's a kind of almost a reminder of that on this card, since it has rest. Sure. But rest heals, so that triggers things like this. It seems good. Study of nature also, during your turn, you may discard the skill to choose another player to scout 1, and you each gain 1 inspiration if they prepare a card with fate. I
think less good.
As I read this the second time, I'm like, so they have to hit that fate card in their scout 1.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Because I was going to say, like, a free prep and 2 inspiration to the team. Like, this seems great. But it is a kind of a roll of the dice.
Yeah. I feel like it's not that good, because you're scouting this card, and then you're replacing this card with someone else's scout 1. And only in, maybe a third to a half of the time they're going to hit
Probably about half.
Okay.
Here's the thing, though. People often know what's on top of their deck. And this works on another player, not yourself, but they don't have to be nearby. So you can pretty easily be like, hey, Aragorn, when you scout this rally phase, leave a fate icon on top of your deck.
Sure, absolutely.
And I'll trigger my study of nature, and inspiration all around. So it's not that hard, I think, to set up.
Yep. Nope, I think you're right. It doesn't seem very challenging to set up. Good point.
I'm full of good points.
And then Insight seems fine. Once per round, a hero in your space may discard prepare to scout 2. It's kind of like a weaker version of, Master Tactician that we saw last night.
Yeah, I think my reaction to Insight was, let's read the 7s. I don't have much to say about it.
Why don't you or is that me now?
I think that's you.
Okay. All right, we got Calming Presence, which has a fate icon. Before you or a nearby hero suffers fear, you may discard this skill to prevent all of that fear. Then look at the top 3 fear cards and place each of them on the top or bottom of that deck.
That's new.
We have a plant, Athelos.
Sure.
Is that how you say that? Sure.
That's how you say that.
It definitely is. Fate icon. At the end of your turn, you may discard this card for you or a nearby hero to discard up to 2 damage. And it also has Sprint 1. We also have Natural Remedy, Fate icon. Before you or a nearby hero suffers damage, you may discard this skill to prevent all of that damage. Then look at the top 3 damage cards and place each of them on the top or bottom of the deck. And then Innovation, also a Fate icon. When you interact and test, you may discard the skill to discard all cards from the test and reveal that many additional cards. Okay.
Okay. All right. I think that the standouts here are Calming Presence and Natural Remedy, which, first of all, we established last time that I hate when things feel like they should be in a certain pattern or something and are not. Why are these not sequential in this set of cards? Why was there something unrelated in between them?
because they're trying to mess with you. They're trying to get inside that head.
They are specifically picking on me with this.
You, Brandon, are being picked on.
So, like these seem like not bad on there just for preventing all of the damage or fear that someone would take in a situation. What do you think? Like, how do you value this this manipulating? Like, you're scouting the top of the damage and fear deck.
Really interesting. Again, nothing in the past, in the core set did anything like this. You just shuffled up those damage and fear cards, and sometimes you never saw the top side of them because you were being dealt face down damage, and sometimes you look them over and you're like, oh, well, now I'm going to take fear until I die every turn.
Right. Yeah, like a solid half of those decks are like Weariness and whatever the other one, like cards that have no effect. So you can set up the next couple to probably be those with this, which seems good.
Or just bury those really nasty, face up ones.
This actually makes me think I might have been playing Damage and Fear a little bit wrong. So I think in Mansions of Madness, the rule was always when you discard Damage or Fear, you shuffle it back into its deck. And so that's what I've always been doing in Lord of the Rings. And
I've been just tucking it at the bottom of the deck, actually.
Putting it at the bottom. Okay. Because I was never I think I tried to look up the rule for what do you do when you discard a card, and I don't remember it ever being specified whether you start a discard pile, put it at the bottom, shuffle it in. And so I think I just fell back on the Mansions of Madness rule. And this now makes me think that must not be the rule, because otherwise this is particularly bad.
Far worse.
It's like manipulate the top of the deck until, since you're Arwen, you heal someone and shuffle that deck because you just shuffled a card into it.
Yeah, seems not as good. And then Innovation is kind of like Determined, and I don't have anything to say about it.
Yeah, it's basically a Determined boon, right? It's pretty similar. It's a little worse. Actually, it's a lot worse than Determined. It's only on interacts. And Determined lets you pick and choose, right? It's almost like a selective reroll of the dice. You can keep the successes you already have and just redraw the rest. And this is all or nothing.
I didn't even see that. Discard all cards.
Yeah, and then also Hide doesn't seem to have anything to do with anything here.
Agreed.
So yeah, maybe
burn it.
If you're running Bilbo as like a hybrid burglar herbalist, maybe this is a Bilbo card, right?
I guess. If you're really trying to reach for it, yeah.
Other than that, let's get to the 12s. Phosphorescence. It's got both of the 12s have successes. Heroes in your space ignore darkness. When a hero in your space prepares a card with a fate icon, that hero gains 1 inspiration. And Healing Poultice. At the end of your turn, you may discard this card for you or a nearby hero to discard up to 2 damage and 2 fear, and it has Sprint 2. Okay, like, at this point, neither of these cards are doing anything all that new. How do you like them?
But Phosphorescence, I feel like, is the winner out of the 2.
Yeah, I think so.
Ignoring darkness, and also whenever a hero in your space prepares, including yourself, a fate icon, that hero gains an inspiration.
Yeah, it's only looking at your space, so it is going to be primarily you. But just leaving this in play and getting it's not even like all that random. It's a somewhat controllable float because you're choosing what to prepare unless you're scouting one.
Sure.
This seems like it's going to give you a lot of inspiration over time.
Yeah, a lot.
One of those rare success cards that I'd probably be happy to just leave and play because the inspiration it's generating is just more than making up for the lack of the success in your deck.
Yep, absolutely.
And yeah, Healing Pulses like lets you rest for someone else.
Yep.
Right? Isn't that when you rest? Is that the end of your turn?
I think it's after a skill test.
Really? That's when you rest? That's
oh wait, no, that's
time to rest.
hide. No, that's hide. I think you're right. I think rest is the end of your turn.
It is a strange little quirk of this game's rules where each keyword has a different time that it actually gets used.
I never really understood that, but it's okay.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, I feel like they should just all work anytime or something.
Yeah, just discard it whenever you want to do the thing. But no, I don't think Healing Pulse. I mean, the Sprint 2, I guess, is nice. But other than that, I don't think this is any better than any other of the healing cards we've seen. It only does one hero. You can't like mix and match the 2 damage and fear.
Yeah, and you'd you don't need to mix and match them because you just get 2 of both. But yeah, it's so in contrast to Phosphorescence, it's one that because of its success icon, if you prepare it, you would want to use it kind of ASAP.
Yes.
Like so you might not necessarily hold on to it until you get that perfect 2 damage, 2 fear heal, right? You'd be like, okay, you have one of each. Like I'll just use this to get the success back in my deck.
Definitely.
And there's got to be, you have to need all that healing on top of Arwen's natural ability. So yeah, I'm not sure how good it is.
Or you just use it for sprint.
That's true.
Yeah. A quick, you prepare a skill and you get a free travel action out of it. That's not bad either.
Yeah, good point. All right, so that's Arwen and the Herbalist. I think I'm most just intrigued by the caring about fate icons thing.
Yeah.
I think nothing else is like blowing my mind about anything we just saw.
I would agree.
Next we've got a couple dwarves, starting with, is it Balin? Balin. I am so good at pronouncing Middle Earth names. Let's go with Balin. He's a dwarf. He's got high spirit. And once per round, when you suffer damage, after resolving all damage from a single source, you may prepare 1 skill from your discard pile.
Wow.
Huh. Okay. It's not something he's probably going to trigger every round, but when he does...
That's a good ability.
Seems good.
Yeah.
Yeah, and importantly, like the shadow phase comes at the end of a round. That's usually when you would take hits, right? And so that's when you probably have lots of options in your discard pile.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, shadow phase or a counter attack after you just tested and discarded, At least.
Yeah, right. Yeah, at least the cards from that test would then be in your discard pile, huh? Yeah, this seems like a good start. This seems really strong.
Yeah, I agree. I'm very excited.
Yeah, and he seems like he should be like a fighter or a tank. Do we have much in the way of spirit weapons? I don't know. What does it recommend he start with? The hatchet, which I did not pull out of the box to look at on here.
Yeah, I didn't really get much of it other than it's a one-handed axe.
I actually
also from the name.
I found it here in the pile. It is not a spirit weapon, so he's going to be attacking with his might. So he's not the best fighter.
It's another Aragorn, is what I'm hearing.
Yeah, basically. But unlike Aragorn, his power is really good. So.
Yes, very, very good. Very exciting. But I'll start with some Balin cards.
Please do.
All right, so we start with Kinship, which is an aid card. Before a nearby hero tests, you may discard the skill for that hero to reveal 2 additional cards. If they are a dwarf, you may scout 1.
This is not a new card, right? Didn't someone have this in... Maybe Gimli has this? Which would make sense because he's the dwarf from the core set.
You're right, because you said that the fact that it had the dwarf trait on it made you upset because no one else would ever have this.
Yes, that always annoyed me in the core box because there were no other dwarves. Now there are, and they also have kinship. So
love it. All right, continuing on with our Raven companion. Creature, shadow. When you test wit, reveal one additional card. Rest one. We have 2 copies of Loyal Friend, which has a success on it. Before you attack, you may discard this skill to test Spirit instead and gain 1 inspiration. And it has Guard 2. And finally, we have Misty Mountains Cold. It has a fate icon. It is a song, so in case you want to have a musician, Balin, there you go. Here's a new song. When you scout, you may reveal 1 fewer card to gain 1 inspiration.
Huh. Okay. So there's a push here towards building an all dwarf fellowship, right? Yeah. I wonder, we have another dwarf coming up next. We'll see whether they also have kinship.
Sure. I like Raven Companion a lot. It shores up the wit weakness.
Yeah, I guess that's true. It only brings your wit from 2 to 3, so it's still something you're not like dying to test.
Yeah, but second best that we've seen.
That's true. And so okay, and there's it's a fail card, so it's one you'd gladly leave in play rather than in your deck.
Exactly.
Loyal Friend, I was actually kind of doing a double take as you read it and looking back at Arwen's cards because it's really similar to her success card, Even Star. They both are. So this is on an attack specifically, but it is, you may discard this skill to test Spirit. Like both of them can switch to Spirit.
Yep.
which I think is a little weird. And then Arwen gets bonus cards. Balin gets inspiration.
But pretty good because then he's testing with his best stat.
Yeah, so unlike Arwen, it's his best stat.
Mm-hmm.
And I was just saying he doesn't get a spirit weapon, and so this makes this is his spirit weapon.
Yeah, right? Exactly. And the Misty Mountains Cold is an interesting trade-off. I feel like you play Balin with Aragorn, and now you have a really great team because then you're scouting 1 fewer at regular 2.
Oh, yeah, +1, -1, and you get an inspiration every turn. Yeah,
there we go. We found Aragorn's niche.
All right, except Aragorn's not a dwarf.
Nah,
can't win them all, I guess. There is obviously titles you can't just get at will, but there is a title that makes someone a dwarf in the core set. Right. An honorary dwarf, I guess, but
a dwarf friend, if you will.
Yes, exactly. Okay, the game recommends that Balin be the Delver, which is a new role, like most of the roles in this box. It starts with the Intrepid card. After you gain inspiration, you may discard the skill to gain 1 additional inspiration and scout 1. And then 2 copies of Shadow Sight with successes on them. When you test, if you're in darkness, convert 1 fate to 1 success and sprint 1. So this is a pattern I didn't even notice all that much until we've been reading all these cards on these lately. Most of the cards that start and play like generate inspiration, right? Like not a coincidence, right? That probably they just help you get scouting
or inspiration.
Yeah, and this one does a little bit of both. Seems fine.
I like it a lot. It replaces itself.
It does. Yeah, gain 1. You do discard it, gain 1 additional inspiration, and scout 1. You do have to find an opportunity to gain inspiration. What I would actually, I think, maybe have to look up is the timing on some quests give you inspiration up front, right? You just start with 1. Does that, since you've also started with this card, does this card just immediately go off before even the first turn of the game? Maybe.
I think so, because usually it's like it's a test. It's like a Spirit 1 test to gain 1 inspiration.
That's true. At that point, clearly the game has started and you're set up. Okay. So sometimes this will just be an additional inspiration and a scout 1 at the top of the entire game.
I like that.
Shadow Sight is a success.
It's very situational. I mean, I think if you're in darkness, you prepare this and you let it sit and play and you get those extra successes. And if you're not in darkness, you immediately sprint with it. I don't think it's a bad card. I don't think it's one you're dying to prepare.
Yeah, I think if you're not in darkness, you put it on top of your deck. I don't think you prepare it.
Always.
I don't know how often the Delver is going to be sprinting. Maybe they're a little Pathfinder-esque in that they get rewarded for sprinting, but pretty much this card is a success. That's what I see when I look at this.
Yeah, I would agree.
All right, how about the threes?
All right. So we got Willie's Shadow Tactics.
I think it's
Wiles.
Wild.
Wiles. But he gives me the Willies, that little art. Oh, where's the camera?
Well played.
So if you have those cunning wiles, at the end of your turn, you may scout X, where X is the number of shadow skills you have prepared.
Ooh.
If you do, discard this skill. Hide has no icons on it, nor does Crushing Blow, which is a tactic. Before you strike with this skill, add Sunder to the attack. And Boasting, when you test Spirit or Might, you may suffer 1 face down fear to convert all fates to successes. Whew.
And that doesn't get rid of this card.
That's why I was like, where's the discard ability?
Yeah, no, that is the most exciting of these.
Yes, I think without a doubt.
It's
all three are good.
It's the tests that Balin wants to do anyway.
Yep. And
then to just blow away the test in exchange for 1 face down fear. Sure. Yeah, Arwen will just seal that anyway.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah, I guess the only thing that, if you're playing in Balin Delver, he only has a 4 threshold for fear, so that is a little bit of a caveat.
That is true. Yeah, so he doesn't want to take a lot of fear from this, but yeah,
there's an armor that I think can cancel. I don't remember who can, or I mean, I guess anyone could take it, but I think cancels face down damage or fear, like once per round for maybe an inspiration or.
Yeah, it's like travel garb. Which
something like that
is what he's recommended to start with. So, coincidence?
Probably not.
Doubt it. Wild seems bad to me, actually. I got pretty excited by the first part of the sentence, especially because we've seen several other shadow skills like the Raven Companion in Balin's cards. But to have this like situational scout X, but then discard this skill to do that, it's like all that this does then is it replaces itself, and the whole how many shadow cards you have, it just decides how many you get to scout for. It's a scout at the end of your turn, which can set you up for the shadow phase if you're expecting bad stuff to befall you. But
I'm with you. I don't think this is very good because like best case scenario, 3 like scouting 3 or 4.
Yeah,
that's like for a card discard for that. You scouted 2, you've prepared this, and then later you'll scout best maybe 3. I think.
Yeah, and just prepping a card just to scout for a couple more and replace that card, but no other effects.
Yeah, seems bad.
I don't know. The one thing is it is in itself a shadow, and maybe we'll see more shadow trait supports as we read forward. So I will do so.
Do it.
I'm gonna forge ahead here. With forging ahead, at the start of your turn, if there are no nearby heroes, gain 1 inspiration. This again. It's just a different take on self-sufficient, which is a very powerful card, and this probably is too. But the tension of so many of the heroes, so many of the heroes want to be with their companions, and then a few of the heroes want nothing to do with that.
so maybe you play, Delver Burglar 2-handed campaign, and you just never see each other. You kind of meet back up at the end.
2 spaces apart at all times.
Yes. The quarantine special, if you will.
I was just gonna say like the COVID fellowship. Yeah. Social distancing team. Anyway, that's right. There are more cards here. Spirit of Adventure. After tile is placed, you may either discard this card to either scout 2 or prepare a card from your discard pile. No stone unturned. At the end of your turn, if you are in darkness, you may discard the skill to interact with a token in your space, and it has sprint 1. Oh, and there are 2 copies of that if you really want to interact in the darkness.
Wow.
Um, Okay, so we kind of got ahead of ourselves and forged ahead on that
Yeah.
one. What do you think of the others?
I think Spirit of Adventure is really unique. We haven't seen anything that interacts with a tile being placed. Usually it's like exploring tiles.
Right.
But again, to go back to our problem with that other card, is it's really not doing anything other than preparing a new card. The discard pile is better. Like you might get something.
I do think that you have to kind of game the turn order, right? You have to have taken some tests on your turn and then have someone else do the exploring to bring that tile into play in order to prepare a skill from your discard pile, which is a little weird. But I think that's really strong because it could be, it is like if you have, say, 2 tests worth of cards in your discard pile, you have 8 cards there. It's kind of like you're scouting 8.
I think it's really good at really high level. Like, so if you have 2 or 3 level 12s in your deck and you also have this, then being able to pull those level 12s from the discard pile and immediately prepare them. The better cards you have in your deck, the better this becomes. That makes sense.
Yeah, the 12s aren't always better, though. Sometimes they're just 12s because they have a success icon on them.
True.
In which case, you'd rather leave them in circulation. Yeah, I'm not super sold. And then No Stone Unturned just comes down to, are you playing in the shadows a lot, in the darkness a lot?
They are both shadow traded.
Yeah, it is shadow traded. It's got sprint on it too. But it really comes down to, you get a free action, which we've talked about in the previous video. Free actions are good. It's a 50% increase in what you can do on your turn. But only if you're in the darkness and there's a token to interact with in your space.
Yep. So similar to level 0 No Stone Unturned in Arkham, I'm gonna pass on it.
Yeah, one thing I'm curious about that maybe would increase the opportunities to make this work is, so you know how battle maps have terrain tokens? When this says interact with a token, does that include like pushing over a pillar? Or there is this expansion adds logs. I know this was not exciting enough to mention at the top, but
wait, logs?
Yeah. So now the battle maps can feature logs.
God, tell me more.
It's actually like the largest section of rules in the rulebook, and it basically comes down to, you may spend an action there to test agility, and if you pass, gain some inspiration. I don't know what that has to do with a log.
You're kind of showing off.
Yeah, you're just like jumping on the log and like, hey, I'm on a log. I feel inspired.
Kind of like the table mechanic where you're like, I'm on the table, I'm emboldened.
Yeah, that's right. I forgot that's what tables do.
This is my favorite mechanic.
Yeah, so it's actually logs and tables are quite similar.
Yes.
So this, at least if this works with those, that at least gives you like a reason to do this on a battle map. Whereas normally, almost all of these cards, actually pretty much all these 7s seem bad on battle maps for the most part, because you're doing a lot less searching. You're definitely not placing tiles, and it's even harder to be distant from other heroes. Yeah. So maybe you don't delve on the battle maps.
No.
All right. I'm sure the 12s are good, though.
All right. Let's find out. They both have successes, so that's good.
That's a good start.
The first one is Glory. After you suffer damage or fear, gain 1 inspiration and scout 1. Strike 2, guard 1. Also, we have Treasures Untold, which is a tactic. When you attack, if there is a search or threat token in the enemy's space, add 4 hits and pierce. Wow. Again, neither one of these discards. And that's good. That's really good.
It does seem good. Yeah, wow. So Treasures Untold adds 4 hits and pierce to attack after attack after attack if there's a search or threat token in the enemy's space.
And Glory doesn't have the once per round like Balin's ability does.
Right. Yeah, so this can be every time, and it also works on fear. And it works at the same time that his ability works. So this is actually something that I expected to see more of in his set of cards, was more, hey, get rewarded for getting hit type of stuff. This is kind of the first one, but it is a good one. It does not discard when you scout, so it just generates extra cards and inspiration.
So he can
Seems super
definitely
good.
get through some rough terrain, is what I'm hearing.
Yes, yeah. And yeah, you know, actually, like, it makes sense that the Delver can get through. It's what, difficult ground. Yeah, so none of these cards mention difficult ground by name, but this something like this does kind of inherently help you get through that. Yeah, both of these seem great.
Yeah,
I think skip the 7s, go straight for the 12s is my take on Delver.
I would agree.
Isn't it amazing how when we review the cards without having played them, we're somehow even more right about them?
Yeah. I mean, I still haven't played them, but I know that those were very, very good takes of those cards.
They must have been. That's
How could they not be?
yeah.
It's me and also Brandon to a lesser extent.
So yeah, if you would please let us know in the comments who was more right and whether we were like extremely right or just pretty right. And yeah, we'll be back for the last 3 characters of the Shadowed Paths expansion in a week or so.
That sounds great.
See you then, Kyle.
I'll see you then.
Until then, be optimal.